we are, despite of who we think we are. You use the word, you said women who are equally yoked to you.
Yeah.
Equally yoked comes in many different facets.
100% balance. If
They have been equally yoked to your low functioning dysfunction that you have learned to survive in.
Because I use my tools to because first of all, let's you're acting as if I'm entering every scenario with the full me, and we all every time someone meets someone, you're meeting their representative. I know how to turn on the perfect man. And so therefore I may have manipulated a situation.
No, do you know what's really interesting? Hey guys, welcome to Little Blackbird 91. What's really interesting is that Nick Cannon is more dangerous than Cam Newton. See, Cam Newton, yeah, for me is almost like a brute. No offense to him. Just what I mean by that in the sense of he doesn't articulate the game in the way that I know that tells me that there's a lot of thinking behind what he do. I'm not saying he doesn't think, but the way that Nick Cannon is, the reason why Nick Cannon is so dangerous for me is that he's a silent assassin, right? Of course, we see all the baby mothers and we think to ourselves, rah, like, you know, all the women that he slept with, and it's just him just sleeping with women and him being a star. That's why people want to sleep with him, and him being careless. I think it's more calculated than that. It's what's dangerous for me. People that are thinkers are more dangerous for me because they think about what they're doing. I'm a thinker too, so I understand, right? And so what's really interesting about this is Dr. Cheyenne's calling him out about being low functioning. One thing I would say is that he lacks that awareness, right, aspect. But I think it's because he's arguing from a different POV. She's arguing that, okay, the women that you're with, they are matching you and mirroring you in your behavior. They're low functioning because they don't realize that you're not giving them all that they need and they want. But it's because also they're not able to articulate that, number one. Number two, they're not in tune with their own emotions and needs very well. That's why they are willing to accept you giving bits and bobs, breadcrumbing them in some sense, and actually wearing a mask, right? A facade. But what Nick Cannon's also saying from his point of view, which is what I started to understand, is because obviously I played the game and I know understand it a bit more, is that what he's saying is you think it's low functioning, but from my perspective, it's very high functioning because I happen to think and move in a particular way to be able to seduce these kind of women. I've done this in my dark arts video. But what I want to focus on is that's the more dangerous, right? Because there's a lack of awareness. And I think there's also an incongruence and also what I believe is I think there's incongruence and there's also for me an aspect of a lack of awareness, all right, of what his true objective is. I think Nick kind of wants to play the game, of course. It gets to a point where you don't want to play the game no more, and you actually want to have somebody you settle down with and choose to be with. I think what's happening here, especially with Nick Cannon and Cam Newton, is that they struggle to be able to trust the women they're with, because if you're so easily played like this, and this is where the kind of almost a paradox thinking comes in, is that if you're so easily played by me like this, I can't really trust you. What was really funny is that when I was in Egypt and I was doing what I was doing, right, there were certain women that when I would come across them, didn't want to play that game with you. Like they would, you get a few seconds in trying to drop bars, they're like, listen, can I be honest with you? I'm not about it. Like, if you're not serious about your life, I don't want to hear it. And you're like, whoa, why are you being so serious? Like, no, listen, I'm serious about my business. I want to get married. I don't want to play this game with you. Whereas other people are like, listen, I don't mind playing that game with you. I still want to get married, but I want to play that game with you and see where it goes. But other people are like, when they're serious and then intentful about where they're going to, women, when they're serious and intentful about where they're going, the men that come across them that are not serious get weeded out very, very quickly. Right. So the thing with Nick Cannon, what she's saying with Nick Cannon here is that those women, if they were high functioning or let's just say emotionally intelligent and actually really aware of what their needs and wants are, he wouldn't get a chance. But I think Nick Cannon's really dangerous because in a sense of dating wise, not necessarily dangerous in terms of their health or anything, but I mean, I guess having children could be a health thing. But I think in terms of the fact that Nick Cannon is a thinker, he's a strategist. He's not just taking out women just by that. He's actually strategizing to get you. Listen again.
Right. And therefore, so it's to no discredit to anyone else. But I come into every situation. I can be God-fearing, celibate, the one that you want. I can tell you everything that you want in a man and show you that. I can open the doors, lay down the cloak, send the jet, do it all to be like, oh my goodness, no, I've never.
And so what he actually really saying here is that I can put on a facade and I can put on a mask in such a way that will fool the person who's in front of them. The reality of the situation is, going back to relationship, what is your intent? If you are intentful, then all that jet and all that kind of stuff, it will entice you. But because you know your end goal, you're watching to see what kind of behaviors he's actually exhibiting. See, the reality of the situation is you can only play this game for so long. But the person who's on the other side, who's actually being intentful about their intentions and knows being very purposeful about the way they move, your behavior can only go for so long. Do you know what I'm saying to you? I can only play that game for so long because you're going to realize that when it comes down to committing, you won't do. How are you putting babies in me but not connecting, not wanting to marry me first? right? See, the only reason why those women fell for that game, or one, because they probably wanted that, or number two, is also because they did not stick true to their intentions if they really wanted that in the first place. Maybe they wanted to have kids, who knows? But they didn't stick true to their intentions of wanting to get married. If they did, they would have met him and they would have left him, because they've done the work to make sure that this is where I want to go, this is what I want to be, and this is what I'm going to do. And when somebody has made their mind up, you can't move them from that place. The problem is Nick Cannon is meeting people that are willing to move and shift, to concede for financial gain or access to wealth or access to stardom, and are willing to trade that in to be a mother for breadcrumbs of him. So that tells you that they are low functioning, because they're willing, because it's not baby number one, okay, two and two. But when it gets to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're the 8th baby mother, you are low functioning, because you're not realizing that there's a game that's being played, that you're willing to breadcrumb and accept low just to get an achievement of a child and access to stardom. You don't believe you're worth more, because you believe that he's speaking your worth. And that tells us where your worth is really in. And that's also the reason why he won't wife you. He won't wife you because he knows that your worth is down in the dumps. That is why he's not wifing you. When I say down in the dumps, what I mean by in relation to him and what he wants. So when he sees you as and look, the women I was going through in Egypt, they're all great women. They're cool women. But do I consider them to be what I wanted? No. So therefore, they're not the worth that I actually wanted. So if they stuck around too long beyond what they wanted out of the situation, they would end up losing, because in reality, I didn't consider them to be what they may have wanted, quote unquote, if they wanted that. So if those women wanted more than what Nick Cannon was giving, they would never get it out of him. Now, it is low functioning when you're having lots of babies around in different homes and not realizing that you can't be in all those homes. It's low functioning to realize that you don't know the impact of you not being there. It is low functioning to not realize that when you grow up these little children, they are going to have daddy issues, regardless of whether you can pay for their school and you take care of their mother. They might know that you love their mother you might care about their mother and care enough to support her lifestyle, but you weren't there. And they're going to always have that. And now they're going to have to do the work to overcome the shortcomings that you have produced, meaning that they're going to have to try and overcome some of those thoughts, feelings, chasing of the daddy figure and other partners. They're going to have to do that work to stop the rot and the generational curse, or patterns, I should say. Or someone would say to me, generational song. And so now they're going to have to undo all the things that you did. It's low functioning.
Then toxic Nick shows up, and you like, this motherfucker got me.
Now, do you realize this is how I know Nick Cannon's a villain? Nick Cannon's a villain. Here's why Nick Cannon's a villain. Do you notice that he just told you his whole game? That's why I said he's more dangerous than Cam Newton. Nick Cannon is a self-aware devil. He is the villain that you see in every TV show that is Marvel, DC, any comic book. He is that villain, because a villain always explains their story and explains this is how I get you. Satan does the exact same thing, right? Satan does the exact same thing. He will tell, and the Bible tells us we are not ignorant of his devices. So what Nick Cannon is doing here? He's letting you know what his game is. Hey, at the beginning, I play this way, I do this, I do that, and then I end up showing you toxic Nick. Now, why does he actually do that? Here's why I think he actually does this. This is the part that I think he does not aware of. Now, of course, he committed himself to Mariah Carey. Probably considered her high value enough to want to commit to her. But he's a runner and he's a track star. Nick Cannon is a runner and a track star. Why? Because when it comes to actually relationships, what it requires is for people to give up their power and say that you now have some level of power over me. Meaning, when I surrender to you, you're surrendering to me. This Bible, Ephesians 5, verse 20, verse 21, talks about man and woman should surrender to each other, right? Before it gets about husband and wife. And so in a relationship, you surrender to each other. You submit to one another. I give my heart to you, give your heart to me. You are trusting me with your heart. I'm trusting you with your heart. The trouble is, Nick Cannon doesn't trust other people with his heart. A lot of this behavior is dismissive, avoidant type of behavior, where they have a high esteem of themselves, but don't trust other people. But it could also be a fearful avoidant because of the way that he's a runner and a track star as well. But, he doesn't trust another person with his heart. So what he does is he sets up a wall for you to say, this is as far as you can go. But I want as much as I can get from you. So whenever I appear beyond the walls, I'll get what I want from you. But when I go behind the walls, you can't come with me. And so what he does is he creates this environment where you get breadcrumbed and he's getting whatever he wants from you. You're giving him everything and he's giving you whatever he wants to give you. Not what you want, but whatever he wants to give you. and I'm talking about emotionally. That's why it's that's why I said that this incongruent, because I do see that he wants love. I can see that in the way he talks. When they talk about his abandonment issues, right? He's unwilling to move out of the abandonment space because it has worked for him, and it's also about power. Why? Because he's been robbed of power. Let's I don't know if I can go, if I get it right clear. I forgot to write it down. Let me see if I can get it.
I want to do that, but I can't do that right now. So I need a moment. But that's still emotional intelligence on your end.
That's too emotionally intelligent.
For you or for me. I mean, because I was the one that used to go hostile. I know I can go hostile and emasculate and say a lot of cutting.
It's gonna be better.
He was not respectful. He has very low value. Who grows into a grown man who projects that exact
why you gotta talk
value.
about me in my face like this,
who projects that exact value on every woman he comes in contact with, and so he overcompensates for things outside of him, not things inside of him, which makes him extremely codependent. And we'll get into that with all your baby mamas. We'll wait a little longer to get into that.
We can get into it.
And this is why Cam Newton also made sure as well that she wasn't going to have no reach, because Cam Newton watched his interview and said, "You're not going to talk about me like this." Right. And he made sure he made it hostile for her as well. Right. Because what she said was, "We're going to get into your baby mothers." Right. Rather than saying, "Let's have a conversation about the mother situation." I think Cam Newton saw that and said, "There ain't no way you're going to come into my arena and think you can talk to me like that. Ain't never going to happen. You're going to be on my time." Hence why he came at her the way he came at her. Because Nick Cannon's somebody as well too, which I love about Nick Cannon, is that reason why he's a silent assassin, and really why Dr. Cheyenne Bryant should be very careful of Nick Cannon, is because Cam Newton, you can see him. People like Cam Newton, they are peacocks. They flower their feathers, and you can see them. Nick Cannon is a ninja, meaning I will allow you to pierce me and get me and think you got me. But when you think you got me, that's when I've got you. I really resonate with his game. It's like, you think you got me. No. I'm allowing you to get me and allowing you to think you got me. Once you got me, I've got you. It's like, I'm allowing you to get in close to me and thinking that, oh, I've got him. Once you think you've got him, that's when it kind of comes out. That's what he was saying about toxicity, right? Right now, he's being genuine. And the difficulty about him is that he's being very genuine. And so he's being very open about the fact that, listen, I'm not accepting everything you're saying. I'm going to challenge you. But that's what's going to make it very seductive.
The tool, we'll get there. The tool for dissipating, because I want everyone to know this tool. This is not for you or for me. I mean, because I was the one that used to go hostile. I know I can go hostile and emasculate and say a lot of cutting things. And if a dude didn't pivot, it was going to be some pivoting if he didn't pivot.
So furniture was going to be moving.
I understand it. But the tool is emotional intelligence. The tool is what is emotional intelligence to you?
Emotional intelligence is knowing how to assess out the situation and understand and feel for someone else and have the empathy for the moment. That's why I'm removing myself.
Now, part of what he said is absolutely, I mean, emotional intelligence is actually right. He nailed it. But when they're talking about obviously him removing himself from an argumentative space, I think he's absolutely right to remove himself, right? If it gets heated, and I'm going to say this, where I disagree with Dr. Cheyenne, and I agree with her and disagree with her, is this. I believe absolutely as a man that when it gets too heated, remove yourself from the situation with women. Like, remove yourself, or at least be able to calm it and de-escalate. And if you can't de-escalate it, remove yourself. But before you remove yourself, you have to have a conversation to say, hey, it's getting a little bit heated. Let's revisit this a little bit later on, because right now I don't want to have this argument with you back and forth because it's not productive. That's part of the emotional intelligence. Being able to also say in that moment, hey, I know we're getting a bit heated. I can see you're getting tense. I'm getting tense. I'm not being productive. You're not being productive. Let's have this conversation a little bit later on. Let's come back to this in about 20 minutes where we'll cool out and calm our heads, which she did say later on anyway, where calmer heads prevail. Nick Cannon saying, no, I'm just going to bounce. Right? And I'll come back a couple of days later. I won't tell you, I'll just bounce. What he's doing is what we call taking back the power. He knows it's manipulative, which is that he starts to ghost you and stonewall you. So what he's going to do is he's going to remove himself from the situation. You're not going to talk to him for the next 3 or 4 days. He's going to come back 3 or 4 days later. You're going to be happy, which is what he says. You're going to be happy and excited. Why? To see him, because he knows that he took the power from you. But let's play a bit more.
Emotional intelligence is more about you. It's about being able to sit in what you feel. Hold on. Without the codependency of allowing this person's emotions
that would also mean emotional regulation.
To throttle. Penetrate. That's my word. To move. The person's not there yet, then it's still healthy for you to say, look, doc, I want to do that, but I can't do that right now. So I need a moment. But that's still emotional intelligence on your end.
That's two emotionally intelligent people communicating.
But what is mental health? That's mental health.
When someone says, I'm putting this EQ aside, you know, and therefore I need to emote right now. I can, you know, if I said exactly what you said to someone that I was in discussion or
inflamed with, you're inflamed at that moment.
Someone is enraged, if someone is feeling pain, they don't want to be like the.
Which is exactly what happened to you as a little boy. Right. And but look what it created.
I want to get to this point here.
Because you left her in her pain to fend for herself. which is exactly what happened to you as a little boy. And that, but look what it created in you. Not saying that you're not a woman or man.
Forever. I'll be back when you calm. I mean, because I don't want to say it.
Right. You didn't say calm down to me. Yeah. I'm emotionally intelligent. I can take
when
it.
Things are a little bit more chill, because otherwise, like you said, it's going to be stuff all over.
So I think also women also underestimate how it also plays out with men too, right? But in reality, I do agree both of them, right? So I think what Nick Cannon's actually saying is that, listen, you tell a woman to calm down ain't gonna work. You don't need to tell her to calm down. What you need to tell her is that, listen, it's unproductive between the both of us. Right, this is beneath both of us. We're not actually being productive in this conversation. It's time to leave this conversation where it is. We can revisit it next time. And this is very, very hard to do, because as a man too, you're also pissed off too, right? But you can't get pissed off to a certain point, because again, like I always say, women remember how they feel, not necessarily the facts of the situation. And I've seen this up front. Like and the reason why is that a lot of women are not healed, just like a lot of men are not healed. So we have to work with the level that we're at. And so sometimes what ends up happening is we do need to leave the conversation there, but we do need to converse and say something. What he's experiencing is saying that when I experience by, trying to tell a woman to calm down, they may not calm down. You know what I mean? It makes it worse. Don't tell me to calm down. And I've heard it. I've seen it. Don't tell me to calm down. I've literally seen it several times. A man saying, calm down. And then, don't tell me to calm down. And it's like, yo, at that point, it's now becoming violent. And I don't need to be there, right? So I understand where he's coming from. But that oftentimes is because we lack the resources and tools to be able to say, hey, can't lie to you, where the conversation is going to, I don't like it. It's going to a place where I don't really want it to go. So I'm going to remove myself. I can come back in the next half an hour. If you want to talk about it then, that's fine. If you want to talk about it tomorrow, that's also fine, depending on how you feel about it. But what we're not going to do right now is that we're not having this conversation right now. Right. And that's what I do. Like now, when I with any woman, whether it's family members or whether it's a girl that I like, I tell them, listen, I can see it's getting to a heightened position. And when it's getting to a heightened position, I don't need to start matching you on that level. What I need to do is let you know that if you can't de-escalate, then we're not going to talk about it. Let's leave it where it is. Let's revisit this later on. Because what I need to do is protect you. If I don't protect you by de-escalating or remove myself, you'll remember how I made you feel, which is he made me feel like, and you never win with women when it makes it come how they feel. They'll remember that for the next eons. So sometimes you have to remove yourself as a man and say, actually, it's not the right time. But you should also be conversing in that moment, which is what the emotional intelligence is. But like I said, Nick Cannon for me is a bit more dangerous than Cam Newton, because he also understands the manipulation. He understands it in order to articulate it. Like I said, I can come back later on when you're more calmer. He knows by removing himself for a few days and coming back, you're going to be calmer. You're going to forget the argument and we move on. And actually what he's done is dismiss and avoid the actual conversation. A lot of people do this, by the way. This is not just Nick Cannon. A lot of people do this. So, when I'm looking at him, I understand. The reason why I said Nick Cannon is more dangerous than Cam Newton is because he's able to articulate those thoughts and he knows what he's actually doing. Whereas other people might be doing it more on a subconscious level, not 100% sure what they're actually doing. Nick Cannon knows exactly what he's doing. That guy's a silent assassin. I'm gonna leave it there. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. You click on that bell button for notification of uploads. Appreciate you guys as well. Much love, much appreciation.